Anchored Music wants to thank you for being a part of our journey this year. We've had some amazing highs and so many amazing things that we're proud of. We've also been through several things that were really tough, but one thing has been faithful through it all, and that is God's love, teaching us, guiding us, maturing us to become fully devoted followers of Jesus. It doesn't matter what storms are happening through your life. We stand on the rock of what God says. Thank you for being part of this journey. Stay true to the Father and His love and stand upon His rock. Happy New Year. Anchored Music wants to thank you for being a part of our journey this year. We've had some amazing highs and so many amazing things that we're proud of. We've also been through several things that were really tough, but one thing has been faithful through it all, and that is God's love, teaching us, guiding us, maturing us to become fully devoted followers of Jesus. It doesn't matter what storms are happening through your life. We stand on the rock of what God says. Thank you for being part of this journey. Stay true to the Father and His love and stand upon His rock. Happy New Year. Anchored Music wants to thank you for being a part of our journey this year. We've had some amazing highs and so many amazing things that we're proud of. We've also been through several things that were really tough, but one thing has been faithful through it all, and that is God's love, teaching us, guiding us, maturing us to become fully devoted followers of Jesus. It doesn't matter what storms are happening through your life. We stand on the rock of what God says. Thank you for being part of this journey. Stay true to the Father and His love and stand upon His rock. Happy New Year.
Hey Garrett, how you doing?
What's up, Steve?
So good to have you and see you again. And so today we're talking about your newest release, The Main Thing. I'm excited
Yeah.
to ask you some questions and hear all about how it all started for you. And so I want to get into that. Let's ask our the people watching. Hey, you guys, please text your friends, send them messages, send them share what we're doing, and invite them to come join us. Give Garrett some love with some hands up and thumbs up, and let us know how you're feeling about what goes on today. We're glad you're here.
Yeah.
So Garrett's coming. You're coming to us from the Sunshine State. Is it sunny there today?
Florida baby. Yeah, it's I think it was like mid 70s today, so like kind of cold for us Floridians. This is
Yeah.
like we when it starts getting in the 70s, we don't really know what to do. So, yeah, man. So I'm live in Florida. I got 3 kids, man, so our home is kind of like a circus. So I I do a lot of my calls out in my garage. So this is my golf cart, and this is like my golf cart office. So this
I
is
love it.
this is where I take all my most important calls out in the garage on my golf cart.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you can use a mobile phone these days. You don't have to get the install for the phone there, like in the old
would
days,
be
golf.
would be kind of epic though, like the old school, like it's like connected to the golf cart, and maybe we bring it back.
That would be awesome. Well, man, it's so good to see you again and talk to you. And for those of you who are just joining us, this is Steve from Anchored Records and Garrett Hornbuckle, who's just released a single today. You got to check it out on all your audio platforms. It's called The Main Thing. It was recorded live with a collective of people. We're going to be talking about that, about that collective of worship leaders, about the song, about what Garrett's doing today, and kind of where he's been. So we're going to jump into some questions, and and if you guys have questions, feel free to throw some out there while we're doing this. So thanks for joining us. So Garrett, a lot of people watching today know you from many years of doing Christian music, probably from when you were like 2 years old. I don't know. So but you were the founder and the lead vocalist of a band called All Things New. And I want to talk a little bit about that, but I kind of wanted to hear before that. Tell us your story, man. Tell us how you got into music and Christian music, and how that band was formed, and that kind of stuff. Give us some interesting stuff to know about you.
Give you all the dirt. So man, I didn't really come from a really churchy home. So I didn't grow up in like, my dad wasn't involved in the church. I didn't come from like a legacy of pastors or worship pastors or anything like that. So man, I didn't really even know what Christian music was until like kind of high school. And so I grew up in kind of in a volatile type of home. So it was pretty physically and verbally abusive at moments. And it was just chaotic. My older sister was heavily addicted to drugs. Cops were kind of always in and out of our home, raised primarily by my mom. She was a single mom. And so we bounced around a lot. So we would rent would get high and we would move. You know what I mean? The next year, rent would get raised and we would move. So, well, my mom kind of always wanted us to, be in church as much as we could. So there was years where we were going to like the Nazarene church. Then one year we go to a Methodist church. Then one year we went to an Episcopalian church. So I'm like my background, man, I've been in all different denominations and environments, and we ended up kind of landing in this Baptist church. And it was middle school. They took us to this camp called Mfuge,
Oh, yeah.
and we went to Mfuge. I was in 7th grade. I was going to La Villa School of the Arts in Jacksonville, Florida. And so I really started getting really involved with music there, kind of realized like, hey, I guess I'm okay at this thing. And so went to Mfuge, and I walked into this church in this conference center, I guess, and this band they were playing Blessed Be Your Name. And
Very cool.
I was just like, looked at my youth pastor, Matt, and I was like, dude, what? There's electric guitars on the stage. Like, there's drums. There's like, this is like rock and roll. I was like, what? This is crazy. Cause like this little Holiday Hill Baptist church we came from, man, it was little Miss Helen on the piano. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and the
Flipping the
only
pages
time
real fast.
Oh yeah, and the only time you raised your hand in worship is if you were having a medical emergency. So, like that was kind of like where we kind of put our roots down a little bit, and we went there because my mom was waiting tables. So a school bus, the youth group had a school bus, and they would pick kids up in the neighborhoods, and they would pick you up if you didn't have a ride, and you get pizza.
That's
And
sweet.
it was cool, man. And so really started finding just value and acceptance, and felt like I belonged and through youth group. And then saw "Blessed Be Your Name," and then I was like, okay, what is this? So I kind of started getting an itch of like, man, that was crazy. But then we came back to Jacksonville to our church and was like back to Miss Helen on the piano, you know.
Yeah. Now,
And
I'll interrupt you for a second. Were you already interested in music at that age? Or were
yeah,
you playing an instrument?
I was going to a school of the arts, so I was doing guitar and vocal at this art school. They had to like audition to get into, and
Yeah. Okay.
so
So that's pretty inspiring. Then you see this rock band, and
oh,
yeah, and
I'm
you're a
like,
musician.
this is awesome. So ended up moving down to in Central Florida, and we I started going to this Christian school. Well, this Christian school was ran by the church. You know, most Christian schools are connected to a church, and it was connected to an AG church. So, Assembly of God. So, you're taking this Baptist kid to an Assembly of God. I'm like, what's happening? And our first Sunday, it was like, it was the school. So, like the church was inviting everybody who goes to the school, right? So, I go to the church and I'm on the front row and people start falling out. I mean, just boom, left and right, boom, 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 like bodies hitting the floor. I'm like, I looked at the youth pastor. I was like, Joe, I don't know what this is, but I got to get out of here. So I take off and I'm like, this is crazy. And it was funny. The next day, the youth pastor was like, hey, man, I want to talk to you about what was going on. So he gave me some context. And so I got really involved in that church. I would say that's where I really started cutting my teeth leading worship. So I would say I'm a Baptist-costal. You know what I mean? I learned a lot from my Baptist friends, but I learned a lot from my Pentecostal friends. And so that's kind of like where I line up as far as denominations or the things that I believe in, you know? But it was funny. The youth pastor there, Joe, he was kind of the first person in my life as a man to really believe in me. And it changed the course of my life. It changed the trajectory of my life. Him believing in me, I really believe it's why I'm able to do what I'm doing today. And not another
Man, I'm so thankful for youth pastors
yeah.
and worship pastors too that take interest in the young folks.
Yeah.
Because I'll let you keep on, but I have
No,
a
you're
similar
good.
story, so that really touches my heart because I'm kind of the same way. I grew up Southern Baptist and went to a lot of non-denominational and Pentecostal churches as I got older,
Yeah.
but uh, my youth pastor uh, invited me just to come hang out with him in the summers in his office.
Yeah.
And I'd look all through his records. I mean, he had vinyl. I'm looking through his
Yeah.
vinyl records. I'm seeing all these Christian artists and things that I didn't know anything about. And then he's like, "Hey, let's go get you a guitar." And I was a musician already. I'd taken all kinds of music lessons. I had a crappy
Yeah.
guitar, and then the next step was, "Hey, Sunday nights is a little more casual. Come, let's you and I practice a few songs and let's lead some worship." And it's like it
Cool.
was like with you. It's like it changed my life. If it wasn't for him
Yeah.
and his little Bible study he did at his duplex he lived in, with
Cool.
6 kids, I mean, he
Yeah.
really discipled us. So I just want to say I'm thankful for those pastors because so many of them, it's like they get put in that role as like a junior role,
Yeah.
to eventually be the big senior pastor one day, but they do so much great work
Yeah.
in that role,
Oh
that
man,
changes
100%.
lives. So yeah.
That's
Anyway, sorry
cool.
to interrupt you, but yeah.
No, that's cool. That's a lot of your story. I never knew that. So that's really cool. So it's funny, he kind of Joe knew that I played guitar and I was into music and I've been doing music and singing since I could walk, you know what I mean? As always was singing. And he was like, "Why don't you come lead worship for our prayer service?" And I'm like, "Dude, I don't really know a lot of worship music, but I know how great is our God. I know that one." And so he's like, "Yeah, come to the prayer service and lead worship." And Now you got to remember, I'm coming from a Southern Baptist background. So prayer service for us is like, God is good all the time, God is good. Amen. You know, like that was prayer. You're like, that was it. Well, my AG friends, boy, they like to pray. So
Right.
I get up and I know one worship song, How Great Is Our God. Steve, I kid you not, I played How Great Is Our God for an hour and a half.
That's awesome.
And that's how I learned how to flow and how to lead in the spirit and how to be sensitive to the spirit, and that's how I learned how to lead worship. You know, like that's how I cut my teeth leading worship, was a youth group Tuesday night prayer service. And the next week I definitely learned more than how great is our God. So
That's cool.
and then
That's
I
very cool.
from there uh I was about 15 and I got involved in this thing called fine arts. It's through the Assembly of God denomination. It's kind of it's really cool. It's like imagine fine arts competition. So there's worship bands, worship leaders, songwriters, human videos, dramas, skits, all of these things. It's like a fine art competition.
Is
And
that in Orlando?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. I've heard of that.
yeah. So and they do it all in the nation too. So you have your districts, and then if you win district or qualify, you go to nationals. And so I got really involved with that and started kind of building worship teams at our church and got involved leading worship at the youth group. And then I saw Hillsong United. I was about 15 years old, and I saw Hillsong United lead worship in Orlando at Orlando Baptist, First Baptist. And I looked at Joe, my youth pastor, and I said, man, I want to do that for the rest of my life. Like Joel Houston was leading, and at that time, I've never felt closer to God, in the presence of God, just like being wrecked by who God is through worship. And it messed me up in the best way. And Joe was like, well, Garrett, you can do that. Like there's avenues to be a worship pastor, be a worship leader. He's like, there's Christian bands that have record labels and tour. And I'm like, what? I'm like, you're telling me like you can do music full time and like it can be for the Lord? I was like, that's crazy. And so I've always been really driven, man. I think when you don't come from a lot, I think a lot of times those type of people have a lot of fight in them and a lot of grit and a lot of just determination. And so for me, I I I started this group. I met some friends. We got involved at FCA, and we started leading worship at FCA at our local high schools. No one had ever done that before, and so we started leading worship. And then I was like, well, guys, we got to get a band name. And so we all put our church names together. And I came from a church. Another guy came from a church. There's 3 churches, and so we put the names together, and we called it Trinage Stone. Terrible name. No one could ever say it. No one could spell it. It was horrible. This is back when MySpace was a thing, so people couldn't even search us on MySpace because it was a made-up word. We just put our church names together. But I was 16. I'm like, dude, this is the coolest thing ever. This is rock and roll, baby. Let's go. And from the very beginning, man, it's always been there's no plan B. There's no plan B. Like from 15 years old, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm 32 now, and I've been traveling and doing this since I was 15. It's kind of crazy. 17 years. Then long story long, I'm long-winded when I talk. Sorry, everybody. But we ended up calling the name All Things New. Just was a lot better. People could actually spell it. And we got that name from a Stephen Curtis Chapman record, which was kind of cool. which is kind of crazy because I ended up touring with him years later, and I got to tell him that, which was just cool.
That's
Full
awesome. That's
circle.
cool.
He's one of the best guys ever, man. Good dude. And we ended up signing a record deal, and signed a record deal, and then 2 weeks later put a song out on K-Love, and a month later went on tour with the Newsboys, and we're like, dude, we're just these punk kids that they threw us in a van. We didn't go. I barely made it out of high school. College for me was the road. I didn't go to college. We just were figuring it out as we went, man, and we were broke, but we loved the Lord and loved just writing music just to encourage the church and encourage the people. Jason Ingram says, Christian music is kind of like life rafts for people. You're just throwing out life rafts for people to hold on to. And I saw that to be true in that season of life. So fast forward a lot of years later, and I'm in a golf cart talking to you.
Yeah. So Jason produced some of those records for you?
The first record he executive produced, our first debut record.
Okay.
Yeah, him and a guy named Jonathan Smith and Casey Brown. So Casey Brown's doing a lot of country stuff now, but Jonathan Smith, man, he's Ann Wilson, Zach Williams. 10th Ave back in the day, but he's crushing it. Awesome dude. So
yeah,
we got them when they were they were kind of small, so now they're big dogs now, but
yeah, no, that's awesome. Just hearing those connections that you made. Touring with Stephen Curtis is an awesome way to really get your band going, for one thing, but when I think of Stephen, he's just one of those guys that he won't forget you. If he sees you 20 years from now, he would walk up to you and say hello and how you doing, and really mean it. Just good people. Jason Ingram, same way. Love both those guys. And so, well, that's awesome. I'd never heard that story, and so it really helps me get to know you even better, and I love that. So the all things new era, and I think we probably got some our producer Brandon may be doing this already, but we've probably got some photos of the all things new era. But just
what do you
that,
got? Oh, be kind.
I know that you've made a transition since then. I want to talk about that, but just real quick, that era of being with a record label and having the success that you had and being able to tour with that first band. What are some of the things you began to learn spiritually, and just as you're growing as a young man? You probably got married during those years, all of that. Talk to us about what you learned, what you saw, how you saw God move in what you were doing.
Yeah, it's great, man. I look back on that season of life, and I'm so thankful, so grateful for what we were able to do, but we were able to be a part of, and just how we saw the Lord work, and always provided. But it's also that season of life feels like eternity ago. It feels like so forever ago, a different life. But as I reflect on it, I've learned a lot in that season as I've kind of matured. I realized I was way too young for the responsibility and the pressure that was on me. I was 21 years old and singing a song about our song was called New Man. That was kind of like our biggest song that did decent at radio and opened up a lot of doors. It was my testimony. And when you're singing a song about being a new man and a new creation, that's a heavy thing to sing about. Sometimes you got to walk through some life to really be able to sing that kind of song. And so I would have grown men three times my age sometimes come up to me and weep. Like, man, that's my story. My dad left, and I'm healing from it today. And that song changed my life. I had a person message us one time and say, I heard that song on K-Love, and I pulled over on the side of the road, and I felt Holy Spirit come into my car, and I accepted the Lord during that song played on the radio.
Wow.
So like, dude, what do you say to that? You know what I mean? Like, I'm 21 years old. I'm like just trying to figure out life. Like, uh, and so it was an honor, but it was a lot of weight that I don't think I was ready to carry at that time.
Yeah.
And it led me to a lot of insecurities. It led me down a path of self-righteousness. It led me down a path of being prideful and thinking I was somebody, because you're going into these radio stations and they're like, man, how does it feel that you finally made it? And I'm like, I'm so broke. I'm working construction when I get home on Monday, but you're playing
Yeah.
my song. But no one
Yeah.
talks about that part of the industry
Right.
because it's not the glamorous part. And back then it was different, man. 10 years ago in the music industry, you had bands that were van and trailer driving through the night on tours, just playing for merch money. Like we called them road dogs. I was a road dog. You don't see that as much anymore. With the way of social media is now, it's pretty quick. When something hits, it kind of takes off and you're in a bus. And so all that to say, man, it was really interesting. On one hand, I felt like I made it, whatever that means. And on the other hand, I was so broke I couldn't afford gas in my tank to get from one of the songwriting sessions to the next. And so I look back on that season and I look at the good. I remember the good, but I also remember I look back and anyone watching this, I wish I could tell my younger self that the platform, it's a powerful thing. It amplifies insecurity and pride, but it also amplifies a really good message that can be shared. So it amplifies two different things. And if you're not careful and you're not living in the tension and you don't have accountability and leadership and mentorship and you're not under authority, I'm out preaching the gospel and exhorting every night and telling people I'm a new creation, yet like I'm feeling so broken and so burnt and like struggling with things inside, and I didn't feel like I felt like I was alone, you know? So, which is
And
funny.
that's
I haven't really,
such a good word for young musicians. It's so easy today, even more than it was then, for a young musician that's a believer that loves the Lord to um, just start off with social media and making their own music and putting it on a platform. And if it takes off, they're thrown into that,
yeah,
and no real spiritual preparation or any kind of mentorship for that. So for guys like you to begin giving a little bit of a story and a warning to heed and encouragement to really stay the course, stay strong and have that kind of
yeah,
what did you call that, oversight, from a pastor or something. I think it's really important. And over the years, working in music, Christian music in Nashville, I saw a lot of people that, like you, their worship pastors or pastors came along and gave them a lot of encouragement and gave them opportunities. And then somebody in the church, whether it was a pastor or somebody else, said, hey, you need to go to Nashville. You need to go
yeah,
get a record deal. And all
yeah,
of a sudden they leave and they've left that well that they were drawing from.
yeah,
And they've left that spiritual mentorship and discipleship and covering that they had. They're on their own. And then all the stuff that you're talking about hits,
yeah,
which, the insecurities and the success and the pride and that they have to deal with. And then they go off the rails,
yeah.
or they give it up completely,
Oh,
or they're or
totally.
they're or they're doing it and they don't really have anything to give or to say anymore. It's like, it's hard. It's really hard. So um, guys like yourself, have a lot to share, a lot of wisdom, and
Yeah, and
so
it's
it's
funny.
great to hear your story.
Yeah, man. I remember my guitar player. I mean, we were best friends. We started the band when we were 15. You don't see that really at all anymore. Like, it's usually an artist, they get signed, and then they hire musicians under them. Or it's a church. Like, it's a church has a brand, or a worship movement, and it's a collective, which is amazing. So it's very different nowadays. The whole garage band story, it's far and few between, but we were one of them, man. And I remember one night we played, we were gone 200 plus dates a year. It was crazy. And wow, we were so broke. I would call Chick-fil-A's on the road and say, "Hey, my name's Garrett from All Things New. We have a song called New Man out on the radio, and we would love if you guys would bless us with a free meal." We couldn't even afford
Oh, wow.
lunch. So Chick-fil-A, we would show up, we'd give the manager a CD, and we all would get a number one. So shout out to Chick-fil-A. We love you guys. Sponsor this YouTube live, okay?
Awesome.
But it was yeah, man, I don't know. I had something to say, but I forget where I was going with it. But
Well,
it's
let's talk about you made a transition, right? So you transitioned more into worship music after
yeah,
the era with All Things New. And I think that when I met you in 2022, toward the
yeah.
end of 2022, I don't know if you'd been doing that out on the road already or what, but I know you told me that you're making this transition. So um, you're past that transition and you're making new music now, some
Yeah.
with us and some other places. So um, just we'll talk about the music that we released today with you, but just tell me about that transition and kind of how you got to that transition and how things are going now and kind of what's on your heart as you move forward as a worship leader.
Yeah, it's good. Man, like I said, worship was always a huge part of what I did and who I was and how I got involved in Christian music, and so I think coming back home in a sense to that has felt really nice. But the past, I think the band, we've been broken up for about 7 years now, over 7 years, which is crazy. Um, it's been a journey in those 7 years of kind of identifying and figuring out who I am as a musician and as an artist and a songwriter. Because I'm not connected to a platform as far as like an Elevation or a Bethel or whoever, I'm just a Garrett Hornbuckle. So it's been interesting. So I find myself guest leading a lot, leading worship.
Hmm.
But then the past year, I think I've really, even since I've seen you, Steve, I would say have really honed in on my craft and who I am as an artist, because I finally feel like I know who I am as a person because I know who I am in Christ. And it's taken a long time to figure that out. I think I was telling my wife, Danielle, I'm like, man, I wish I knew of what I know now back then during All Things New, because I feel like the trajectory of our career would look completely different. That's what I was going to say earlier. My guitar player looked at me and he was like, "You've been saying the same thing for 5 years." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Every night you say the same thing." He's like, "Man, you have no fresh revelation."
Oh, wow.
And that's when I started realizing, like, I'm burnt out. And now I'm like, dude, you want to talk? Let's about the Lord. Let's go. I'm like, feel like I'm like, like the oil is flowing over, But it's like I've just have seen the faithfulness of God in my life, and I've seen His goodness and His kindness with my family and what we've been through, and just so I'm grateful that I get to share that and through songs, and I think in different ways, right? Like with what I'm doing with you guys, it's worship, it's live, and then I think my own personal artistry that I've been posting a lot on socials. It's a little more rootsy and kind of swampy southern. Uh, we're still very worshipful, but not everything as congregational as like a song like The Main Thing. But I'm really excited about The Main Thing because I still guest lead and travel and lead worship, and I'm doing it a lot this summer. And I wish I would have realized this revelation about The Main Thing 10 years ago,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so this is a powerful song, The Main Thing.
Yeah.
Um, and it's obvious to me hearing you talk that it comes from a real place, um,
Yeah.
and it's a heart cry. We always want to make Jesus more. I mean, to be the main thing, We have to keep pursuing him more
Yeah.
and getting rid of our distractions, right, so that he remains the main thing. But you brought two songs. You brought that one, and you brought another one called Now
Yeah. Which
to
I'm
us.
excited about. I'm really excited about now as well. I've been leading that one, and that one's been connecting a lot. So excited.
Yeah, both great songs. And so we talked, and you came and joined. I think we had over 2 days. I think you were there the first day. We had 11 different worship leaders from
Yeah.
all over there in Anaheim, California, at the anchored warehouse that we called the Ark. And I love gathering people together who may have never worked together before, and just so they can make those connections. I know sometimes that can be kind of excuse me, that can be a little scary, it can be a
Yeah.
little uncomfortable to throw people into a room together for a day to do something. But from my perspective, and I want to hear your perspective, from my perspective, I felt like it was pretty amazing being able to come together like that and trust one another, because we're all believers in Christ and we can worship him together.
Yeah.
We can sing on each other's songs, just have that unity, make new friends, make new potential collaborators on future projects as writers or artists.
Yeah.
Um, so tell me what was your experience when we recorded the main thing live? Well, both of these live.
Yeah. So one, I was just so grateful that you would even reach out and want me to be a part of it, because I love what you guys are doing. So anyone listening, man, make sure you guys are following Anchored on all the things, because I know some really exciting stuff is still to come. But for me, I'm really used to stepping into different environments and adapting. Like I said earlier, in this conversation, growing up, we moved so much. So growing up, I was in different denominations, different cultures. Uh, my neighborhood where I live now, man, it's a melting pot of different cultures. My neighbors are it's diverse. So stepping into the collective and the live recording, that was one thing I really was observed right away. I was like, man, this is a diverse group of people, from different backgrounds, different nationalities, like all of it, which I just thought was so beautiful. And I also was just so encouraged by the absence of ego. There was like no ego in the room. Like everyone,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, was just, it was very unified. It was long days, super long days, and we were tired. Oh man. I remember
Yep.
being like, dude, why did I wear my boots? My feet hurt so bad. uh,
Well, you were
but
looking good in those boots.
dude, those boots were looking good. But it was cool just to see everyone's heart posture towards it, where it was like, they could be complaining, the band could have been griping, but everyone was just there just to really just glorify the name of Jesus through music and through song, and it was really neat to see. I think that was my biggest takeaway, is the fact that there was just no ego, there was no pride. Um, Everyone wanted everyone to win. You know what I mean? In a sense
Right.
of like cheering each other on and singing on each other's songs and being a part of the background vocals for other artists and other songs, and then also it was cool just to see, like you said, it's a collective. So people were coming. I came from across the country. I was in Florida. You had people from all over the country, and so it was cool to be reminded, and I was encouraged just to see how the Lord is moving throughout the church, throughout America. I think there's a lot of people my age, millennials, that are just talk about church hurt all the time and talk about deconstructing and all of these things. And the church still is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's still a good thing, and I was reminded of that when I just was in that room, and I was encouraged by people's faith. It built my faith up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just to see how the Lord is moving in different environments throughout the country, and so it was cool, man. I hope to be able to do another one, because it was fun.
Yeah, I love hearing you say that, because that was our hope. And and it was interesting because we broke it up when we recorded, and we said, let's record this song and then let's try it again and then let's stop. But we told the crowd of people, that small crowd of people we invited, hey, we're still worshiping the Lord, even though this is a little more production feeling with the cameras and all this than uh, a Sunday morning worship service might be. We're still going to have a time of worship. And even though it was hot and we were sweaty and our feet hurt in our boots, and we had a lot of people that maybe we'd never met before until right before we record, it really truly was a time of worship, not just a time of making a record,
Yeah, it's good.
And I hear that a lot, and I've even heard from the Anchorage staff, oh, we love it when this happens, it's like, it's just so good. God shows up. And so, yeah, it's very special. So we recorded The Main Thing and Now. And so The Main Thing is the first release that came out today. The video, everybody who's watching, is the live video is going to go live on YouTube immediately when we get finished talking today. So hang around for that. You may see some clips of it here and there as we are as we are talking today. But then you'll get to watch it right after. So be sure to watch that and share that when we're done here. But I want to talk about this song. So the main thing, we talked a little bit about the theme. Tell me about how that song came about, who you wrote it with, just a little bit of the story behind the song.
Yeah, I wrote it with 3 other awesome writers in Nashville, and McKendry, Jess, and Molly. And I just remember that day, I think I literally was like, I just want to write a song about keeping the main thing the main thing. Because I'll lead worship and I go to different environments, and it's just something I always say. Uh, just keep the main thing the main thing. And so many people say this, right? Like, it's a good reminder. And I was like, can we write a song like that just says that? Uh, and so the whole premise of the chorus is like, in the highs and the lows and the good times and the bad times and the suffering and the joy and the rejoicing and the pain, uh, I'm keeping you the main thing. Like, my eyes are not gonna be set apart from you. Like, my eyes will be fixed on you, Jesus. And so, um, I think I just love how congregational the song is. I think it's a song that's really needed in church, just to be reminded of that truth and that promise. We wrote it out of the Gospels, where I believe it's in the Gospel, or I forget what chapter, but it's really, it's very familiar passage where it's like, Jesus says, like, you perform many miracles in my name. You casted out demons in my name. But but you know, but go, be apart from me, for I don't even know you. He says that, and it's like, whoo. He's like, oh my
Right.
goodness, like, that's such a terrifying verse to
Right.
read, especially like for what we do. Like,
Mm-hmm.
leading worship and leading people to the throne room of God. It's like, you did all of these things. You did many miracles, not just one miracle. You did many miracles in my name, but I don't even know you. So it's like, I think sometimes we get so busy doing the things of God that we forget to spend time with God.
That's
And
right.
so
Amen.
I I I just want this song to be a reminder for everyone. Like, you don't just have to be a worship leader. You don't have to just work on staff. You don't have to be a touring artist. But man, maybe you're a mom and you're stressed out because you've changed a lot of dirty diapers today. And like, maybe you're a dad just trying to provide for your family, or you're a single person who's waiting to find a spouse, or whatever season of life you're in. I think when we just keep the Lord the main thing, I really believe that He orders our steps, and He lets us know what the next move will be, And so, just bringing it back to the basics.
I think, and I said this in the notes that I sent you, just some of my thoughts. I agree with you. I think it's timely, and I think it's timely because if anybody else is like me, it's like, it just seems like the last few years there have been more distractions in life than I've seen in a long time. And I see a
Yeah.
lot more people who are lovers of Jesus who just can't seem to more than ever before, really make that time to pray and to spend time with the Lord. It's like there's just so many things hitting them,
Yeah.
just distraction after distraction. And part of me believes, well, I think all of me believes that, that we're getting closer and closer to the time of the Lord returning, and I really feel like we need to press into the Lord, and so the enemy creates all these distractions so that we won't find time to do that, so
Yeah.
that it's hard to make Jesus the main thing in our life because we have all these emergencies. So I just love this song for right now for that reason. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's always applicable, right? It's like, we read Jesus' epistle in Revelation to one of the churches. I don't remember which church he said, was it Laodicea? I wish you were either hot or cold, you know? He tells another church, um, you've lost your first love, right? Um, But this song reminds me a lot of Matt Redman's song, The Heart of Worship, just getting back to who are we and what is our relationship with the Lord, you
Yeah.
know? Um, so I love it. I think it's very timely, and I'm glad you walked into that room with songwriters and said, "Hey, let's just put this down in a song."
Yeah.
Why can't we say this? So I love that, and thanks for sharing that. Um, so. Looking at my notes here, I think we've talked about a lot of stuff. Anything else you want to say about the song or the recording?
Man, just I hope that for me, my prayer is that this song would just encourage people and inspire people to just reconnect with the Lord, that people would be drawn back to Christ, and just a reminder to just keep him the main thing in every aspect of your life, in your marriage, if you're on staff at a church, in your workplace, just in your life, just like keep him the main thing. And I promise you, like, sometimes we don't understand the things, but I do know that there's purpose to it all. And so it's just, I really just hope that this song encourages people as they worship with it, and just to get lost in worship. And man, if you're a worship leader or if you're a worship pastor, and we're gonna have some resources for you guys. I know we got some chord charts, I think, and things like that. So it's been cool. I've been leading it live, and it's definitely a song that just kind of catches really really quickly. It's like a very easy to sing song. So I think it is a song that can be sung in church, and people connect to it, which is cool.
Amen. And I'm glad you brought that up. We do have chord charts for the song, and I was going to tell you this earlier that when I had the first mixes of the song, I sent them. I kind of gave a sneak peek to a few of my friends that are worship pastors in
Yeah.
different churches, and one of my buddies. I mean, I don't even know if he was able to even listen to the whole song. He got back to me so fast, and he's like, "I want to do this Sunday. Can I get a
Wow.
chord chart?" People. I think this is the type of song that a lot of churches are going to want to sing. I mean, it's the kind that I think people are going to find themselves humming and singing in the car or in the shower. It's
Yeah.
got such a great hooky melody and powerful reminder in the lyric. Um, but the chord charts will be available on our website and at all of the resource places that church worship leaders typically go. Praise charts, song select. We'll have stems at multi-tracks and loop community and that type of thing. So if any of you guys are looking for that and you don't see it, hey, hit Anchored Music Official up on the platforms with a DM
Yeah.
or send us some type of a message. But they should be up on our website soon.
Cool.
And yeah, I thank you for your time, man, and tell
Oh
people
yeah.
how they can find you and more of your music. Where can they find you online?
Yeah, I mean, all the things, Facebook, and really, I do a lot of TikTok and Instagram is kind of where I focus my time. So hit me up on TikTok and Instagram, and love to connect with you guys. And I'll be out on the road opening up for Red Rocks Worship in May. So that'll be awesome. So hopefully we'll be coming to a city near you. So come check it out.
All right, everybody. Garrett Hornbuckle, and please keep him in your prayers as he does the Lord's work. And we're thankful for him. And yeah, check out The Main Thing on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you get your music. And hang on right now as we end today. We pray God will bless you. And go watch the live music video. Be one of the first ones to watch it on YouTube right now, and share it with your friends. Give us some thumbs up. Follow us. Follow Garrett. And come back again. Watch your messages. We'll be doing more of these in the future. So thanks to everybody, and bless you, my friend Garrett, as you go forward. And maybe we can do this again when we release now.
Let's do it. Thank you, Steve.
All right.
Hey, thank you
Take
guys for
care.
watching.
Have a good night.